shouldn't take too long. Thanks for being here. I'm going to refer a bit to some questions that the Attorney General, one of them that was placed, had the answers returned to the Senate late last week that Senator Brandis tabled, and a couple that haven't come back yet. One with reference to question on notice 2626, which regards the AFP funding the Sri Lankan CID units, the Criminal Investigation Department. We've got some answers back. Thank you very much for providing those. And I'm not sure whether to direct these questions through Senator Brandis or you, Commissioner, so I'm happy to, whoever wants to take them on.
If I can answer them, Senator, I will.
All right, let's go then. So response to question 2, I asked whether you were aware of the credible allegations of human rights abuses, physical, sexual torture, as well as forced extrajudicial incarcerations and killings committed by the CID, this Criminal Investigation Department. And the response that came back was the department is aware of allegations of human rights abuses. That's all we've got. So they're speaking on behalf of the AFP. The AFP is aware of those allegations.
Senator, was that a question to the department that the department answered? I'm just trying to get a copy of the question on notice.
Yep.
Is this one that we answered, or?
Well, it was to the Attorney General's office, but it referred directly to the AFP.
We're just trying to find if we've got a copy. It's not in the questions on notice that I have with me today.
I can table it if that would help.
If you could,
if you like, we might just need some assistance from the Secretary. I'll just make a copy of that one for the Commissioner. Thank you. It's not but maybe then I'll keep it general until you've got a copy in front of you, if you like, Commissioner. What's your understanding of the situation regarding human rights as far as the Sri Lankan CID is concerned? Because obviously the AFP has been providing assistance for a couple of years.
Senator, clearly there have been media reports in the past of allegations of human rights abuses in Sri Lanka, including the Sri Lankan Police CID. From an AFP perspective, we have very clear guidelines if that is to be observed, what we do with it, and I'm not aware of any reports from our officers of having observed human rights abuses.
You haven't observed?
Well, I'm not aware of any reports from our officers having observed human rights abuses. I am aware that the media have reported those allegations.
Yeah, all right. Well, we can come to some of the media reports a little bit later. Were you aware, or was the AFP aware, presumably under your predecessor, whether the AFP was aware of these allegations and reports prior to providing the material assistance that we've been doing for a couple of years?
Senator, I believe the answer to that would have to be yes, because the allegations have been around for some time.
Okay, they have indeed. Tell us a little bit, again, you go into a little bit of detail in the question on notice, but if you're happy to just proceed without direct reference to it, you indicate that there is a risk assessment process that you go through, not just in Sri Lanka, obviously, but anywhere that we're providing direct assistance to police units, military, paramilitaries. There's a risk assessment process you go through. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Well, first of all, Senator, we don't provide assistance to militaries, and we're very careful about that. And our assistance that we do provide to police, we necessarily have to make judgments about what assistance that is. For instance, the AFP doesn't involve itself in training of a tactical nature. We predominantly limit ourselves to providing assistance, training and support in relation to investigations, the conduct of investigations, how intelligence is used, and implicit in our training is a human rights subtext, because we train on the basis of the way that we operate.
So what was that last bit?
We train on the basis of the way that we operate.
Okay. So what happens when some of the units or the departments that you're training don't operate according to those principles repeatedly over and over again over a period of years?
Well, Senator, in partnership with departments such as the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, we would have to make judgments about the utility of providing that support.
Okay.
Whether we felt that there is an element of wanting to improve the conduct of some of these police forces, but certainly, this is a constant and ongoing assessment that we make.
So you made an I'm just trusting that you got the document in front of you. So
We do now, Senator.
Great.
It doesn't ring a bell as one of ours, but I accept that it talks about the AFP.
Well, it would have gone through the department, through the AGD, but obviously it refers you guys directly. So answer to question 3, you've pointed out you conduct an initial feasibility study before the establishment of any liaison post. And again, I'm happy for this to be forwarded through the department if you'd prefer. What criteria do you look for before deciding whether to start shifting equipment, training, capacity building into a particular place?
So there's a few things in that, Senator. You also referred to when we conduct feasibility studies, which I note now is in the actual question on notice.
It's answer number 3.
I want to go back to the feasibility study that we did for Sri Lanka to find exactly what the assessment criteria was and what we looked at. Perhaps Deputy Commissioner Close has got some more information.
Yes, Senator, as well as the areas you're outlining there, we also have a memorandum of understanding between the Australian Federal Police and the Sri Lankan Police, and that sets out the aspects in relation to what equipment, training, etc., that we will provide to them.
A formal MOU?
Yes.
When was that signed?
I'll have to take that on notice, Senator.
Okay.
It's a while ago, though, Senator.
Yeah, 209 is...
I think that was the initial one, and it may well have been updated since then.
Okay. Could you table a copy of that, whatever is the current standing iteration of that document for us?
Could we table that?
Yes.
I don't believe we can table MOUs because they're agreements between ourselves and another country. I think we've dealt with this issue before, and I believe the advice has always been that we're not able to table MOUs.
Senator Brandis, is that your understanding?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't listening.
That's all right. Tabling, sorry if we're an inconvenience to you, tabling MOUs
No, I was just distracted by my advisor. So what was the question?
Tabling of MOUs between the AFP in this instance and their counterparts in other countries where we're providing material support or training capacity building. I sought a copy of the MOU that's been signed between the AFP and the Sri Lankan Police Service.
Yes.
And is it formal government policy that such documents would never be tabled? I'm just wondering why it wouldn't be possible for Australian taxpayers to see that.
I don't immediately know the answer to that question, Senator, so I'll take it on notice.
It's worth asking then. All right, if you're able to take that on notice. Interested in the specifics, but also in the general government policy. In answer
Well, I obviously have to acquaint myself with the document to which you refer to seek advice as to whether it is the kind of document that might be tabled, obviously.
Yep, understood. In your response to question number 4, you've said the AFP has not received any reports from his own officers regarding allegations of abuses involving the Sri Lankan Police Service. Now, that's obviously a bit bigger than just the CID. You've referenced the entire Sri Lankan Police Service there. You've pointed out in 2010 you were made aware of some specific allegations. Now, there's very careful language there. The AFP has not received any reports from its own officers regarding allegations of abuses. With one Google search, in about 8 seconds, I discovered a Human Rights Watch report titled Sri Lanka Routine Police Torture Devastates Families. Human Rights Watch is a credible organisation that's got global reach and good standing. Do you take into account that kind of open source material, or do you just wait to hear from your own officers?
Well, no, Senator, as I think I said before, we're aware of the allegations. We're aware that there has been significant reporting of these allegations, including organisations that you just mentioned. In specific reference to the question, we have said, as I said before, that our officers, who have very tight guidelines around what they should or should not report, should they become aware of allegation or abuse by our partners, have not reported any that they have themselves witnessed.
So unless you specifically witness somebody being tortured, everything's hunky-dory?
No, Senator, not at all. And quite the opposite, and that's not what I said before. I said that we take a range of things into account. I did say to you that I didn't want to comment on the initial feasibility study until I was able to refresh my memory of it.
Understood.
And know what was taken into account.
What about the day-to-day conduct, the sort of activities that's reported by Human Rights Watch?
I'm not sure what the question is, Senator. I mean,
you've referenced a document that we believe was signed off in about 2009, and you've undertaken to take that on notice. Yes. Initial feasibility studies long before you.
Yes.
You were in the role that you're in now. I understand that. My question to you is we're not just interested in the assessment you did in 2009. What about the assessments you do day to day? Does it cause any sort of stir, for example, when Human Rights Watch publishes a sort of document
Well, Senator, we don't operate in a vacuum. Our officers work in a number of countries around the world where there are allegations of misconduct.
But why are we supporting and providing equipment, training, surveillance gear, computer equipment, white vans, which I'll get to in a second, to a police unit that is regularly accused of committing horrific human rights abuses? Why do we do that?
Senator, we have a vast international network where we work with our partners in a range of countries, particularly within the region, our region to the near north. We work with them because it's in Australia's law enforcement interests to try and take the battle against crime offshore and defeat it at the source where we can. And we work with them because the effects of transnational crime require us to take that approach. If we didn't, then we would be far less effective at our work. Now, we do that very conscious of the expectations of the Australian government and the Australian community about the way police conduct themselves. But, Senator, I mean, as I've said, we're aware of these allegations, but they don't necessarily mean that we should not continue to work with trusted partners.
That's breathtaking. When you say that they're trusted partners, they're accused in this document, and again, I found this in less than 10 seconds. The document's torture methods used by the Sri Lankan police routinely against criminal suspects, including severe beatings, electric shock, suspension from ropes and painful positions. We wouldn't tolerate this kind of behaviour from a domestic law enforcement agency.
There's a policy issue here, Senator. Now,
tell me what that is, Senator Brandis, enlighten us.
First of all, you seem to be assuming that because an allegation is made, it ought to be accepted to be established. I don't think that that is very sensible, and I don't think that's the way any police or law enforcement organisation can operate. Secondly, and I'm sure Commissioner Colvin will elaborate on my remarks, it is very important the Australian Federal Police have collaborative and cooperative relationships with other national police forces, including the Sri Lankan police, across a whole range of areas of important mutual interest, including combating transnational crime, people smuggling, terrorism, child sexual exploitation, and a range of other serious matters. Surely you're not suggesting that because an NGO has made allegations that you assert to be credible against another national police agency, we should have no cooperation with that police agency?
What I'm trying to find out, Senator Brandis, you imply that I just assume that they're credible. Are you assuming that those allegations are not credible? What I'm trying to find out here is what happens.
No, I'm not assuming the allegations are not credible.
So what was done to validate them or otherwise?
The boot is on the other foot, Senator. You are saying that we should take a decision which would have a very significant blow on international crime cooperation merely because allegations
of torture
that you say, well, the subject of the allegations is hardly to the point. The question is whether the allegation...
Precisely to the point, or I wouldn't be wasting your time.
Senator Ludlam, the credibility of the allegations is a different issue from the gravity of that which is alleged.
All right, so what did either the department, the AGD, or the AFP do? Let's pick a specific example, this report that I've cited a couple of times, October 23, 2015. Sri Lanka routine police torture devastates families, Human Rights Watch. What did the AFP or the AGD do when that report was published to either validate, verify, or otherwise the claims that it contains?
Well, Senator, first and foremost, it's not the AFP's job to attempt to validate or otherwise allegations against an individual of a foreign police service.
Whose job is it then if we're providing them with material support and training and capacity building?
Well, Senator, our job is to make sure that the support that we provide is used in accordance with our expectations, and we do that routinely. And I know you'll ask me about the white van, and I'm sure we'll talk about that as well.
No, let's go there since you brought it up. Carry on.
Well, no, Senator, the question's been raised with us before. I mean, yes, we provided a vehicle to the Sri Lankan Police Service in furtherance of our objectives. I believe it was around people smuggling in particular. I know there's been links drawn to white vans used in Sri Lanka to participate in human rights abuses. There are many white
kidnappings.
vans in Sri Lanka, I'm sure, and I find it quite difficult to try and draw any link between the vehicle that we may have given and some allegation that a white van has been used
It's
in
about
some
white
inappropriate
vans.
way.
It's about white vans used by this very specific CID, this very specific unit of the Sri Lankan police force, to abduct people who were then extrajudicially tortured or murdered.
But all Senator Ludlam, all of these statements you make are claims.
Yeah.
They are allegations.
I'm interested to know what the government does to verify the allegations, or do you just
They are allegations.
hope for the best?
No government alters its policy merely because some unspecified, unknown person might make an allegation.
It's Human
Allegations are
Rights
made all the time.
It's groups like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International.
Well,
They are credible organisations,
Senator,
Brandis.
Senator, I'm not particularly familiar with Human Rights Watch. I am familiar with Amnesty International. And over the years, I've seen a number of claims made by Amnesty International which were demonstrably false.
So, have you done anything at all to verify the claims in this document in particular? Because otherwise, it looks as though it's kind of a don't ask, don't tell policy.
Senator Ludlam, I'm not even familiar with the document of which you speak.
Okay, I'll come back to this a little bit later.
Well, your time's finished, so
Can I put one or two more just on notice, if you like?
we can come back to you if you want to do it that way. But Senator Lammy had some questions.
If others are
when
waiting,
she's
all right,
finished,
that's
so I
fine.
can come back to you if
Thanks,
you want
James.
to.